Welcome to Spotlight America Television, the blog. I'm Actor Khan. You know, the United States has come under immense pressure and scrutiny from both sides of the divide. That's the pro and anti-Syrian lobby about what to do with Syria and its growing unrest. For example, should the US administration help the Syrian people and others alike in the Middle East struggling to remove themselves from tyranny and move towards a legitimate democracy? Or should the US heed as yet unseen saber-rattling by Syria's traditional allies, and that's China and Russia, and continue along the diplomatic path? Despite the civil unrest in Syria, Iran is very much the focal point for President Obama in the region. Quite rightly so, when you consider that that country may be on the brink of developing nuclear weapons. And of course, you can bet your bottom dollar aimed at Israel. Cynics among you may say it's just to woo the Jewish vote, but President Obama's speech to the United Nations General Assembly last year wasn't mere lip service towards Iran. It was plain and simple. A nuclear Iran is not an option. So we're all aware of where the administration stands regarding Iran, but what of Syria? As I mentioned earlier, the Syrian people are facing hardship at home. So let me ask you again, should the US administration help the Syrian people rid themselves of a self-appointed leader whose only qualifications for the job is through birth? Comments about the Kennedys and the Bushes on a postcard, please. Just kidding. But all in seriousness, what should and can President Obama do? Should we covertly help the Syrian opposition and those in the country fighting for democracy through indirect military means? Or should we go all out and send troops to Syria under the UN banner? Whatever your viewpoint, remember, the Middle East has always been a powder keg and is an extremely volatile region. Before the answers come the questions. 1, can America afford another war? Not politically, but economically. 2, do the American people and the administration have the will and the patience to deal with sorting out yet another country in the region? 3, shouldn't the neighboring countries such as Jordan and Saudi Arabia, for example, do something to help their own people, i.e. fellow Muslims? 4, should the West, America in this case, impose its own values on a country whose people have no concept whatsoever of democracy? 5, just how much longer is America to notice, or rather police, the world? The moral and humane argument for helping Syria is obvious. But before we go charging in, and by that I'm not suggesting that we do that, by the way, we need to think long and hard about the consequences of doing just that. In truth, America really can't afford another war in the region, Iran or Syria otherwise. The strategic geopolitical argument doesn't hold either. The US has 38 military and naval bases in the Middle East. That more than covers the region and guarantees a firm and permanent presence. A modern-day détente, if you like. So although helping the Syrian people to gain independence and democracy would be the right thing to do, President Obama has to ask himself, and I mean literally, at what cost? While the administration doesn't want to be seen penny pinching when it comes to foreign policy, it has very little or no choice. For one, it would send the wrong signals to countries like Iran and similarly rogue states such as North Korea. But with some estimates for the cost of the war in Afghanistan, Iraq and Pakistan between $3 to $4 trillion, are people going to stomach yet more tax dollars being spent abroad? Also, asking Congress to sanction yet more money when Capitol Hill and the White House are at loggerheads over Bush tax cuts and agree to send more troops in harm's way is probably unpalatable for the American people and isn't going to go down well with people at home and facing hardship. No, the administration should ask its European and Middle East allies to take the lead and put their money where their mouth is. I've lived in both Europe and the Middle East and can tell you that in public, foreign powers are more than happy to ask the United States for assistance, but behind closed doors are only too ready to criticize. That said, I'm not advocating a policy whereby the administration neglects its humanitarian duty abroad, but merely stating the obvious. There are many ways the US can help and rid the world of despots, tyrants and dictators without military intervention. Nurture home growth and organic resistance. Isn't it about time that people took their own destiny into their own hands? After all, isn't that also advocating the principles of freedom, choice, liberty, and of course, democracy? In a nutshell, if President Obama's speech to the United Nations is to amount to anything, it should be to see a new world order crafted by, as he put it, for the people and by the people. The people of that region are making their voices heard. What will world leaders do now? As always, we'd very much like to hear from you on your views on foreign policy and in particular this issue. What should the US do? Plus, if there are any other stories you'd like us to cover here on the show, then do shoot us an email. That's spotlightamericatv@gmail.com. But until next time, from me, Actor Khan, and the rest of the team here on the show, goodbye and thanks for watching.